deliberate, honestly, but I keep adding extra letters to the names of bands you give me. So I kept referring it to in my head as Swamp Meat, which kind of seems makes more sense.
That's what I had for dinner last night. It was
Yeah,
delicious.
a lovely bag of swamp meat. Anyway, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audio Files. My name's John. His name's Andy.
Perfect.
Each day I walk along this lonely street, trying to find a future. New pair of shoes are on my feet, because fashion is my only culture. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to, selected by brother Andy. Andy, what do you got for us today?
We are on the last leg of this short little tour of the Outback. So we are going to be checking out another Aussie band that I have to offer up to the channel. The name of this one is Swapmeet. No bells rung, no flags waved. Excellent. The name of the track by Swapmeet that I want you to scope out is called Ceiling Fan.
Okay.
That's exactly. So please give Ceiling Fan by Swapmeet a listen and come back and let me know what you think.
Will do.
I've been running out of reasons for me to be scared to hold you tight and just not care.
I think I got and just not care then, but the rest of it, nah. So very, very nice. Starts off with this single note. I think it goes on for quite a long time, even when the guitars come in. The guitar comes in, giving it a kind of folksy feel. Is there a scraper, a frog scraper? Perhaps, perhaps not. And then we get this vocalizing. But it sounds like someone sort of like dawdling, almost like deciding which kind of flavored tea they're going to choose. And then we get the vocals coming in. Old Breathy McBreathy. Very beautiful but fragile sort of vocals. And the words are kind of broken as well. Which makes it hard to discern. I definitely heard some vowels and some syllables. Yeah. Whole words. That's a tricky thing, but it sounds very nice. Let's see how it goes.
I've been looking at the ceiling. It
Ceiling, I heard that.
to me now how we can witness almost anything without making a sound. And I've been waiting all this time for you to make up your mind. There's nothing more, there's nothing more, but there's nothing here. Feels like I've wasted my years on this sick hook, on this sick dream, on this delusional sense of reality.
That's nice. That's quite a nice, pretty guitar then. And up jogging comes the drums and the bass, the rhythm section. And it's like, oh, look at this over here. We've got some Smashing Pumpkins sounding guitars for you, which sound lovely. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. They've got that lovely sort of bending, leaning quality to them. It's almost like you're seesawing and really nice. Was that around about the 2 minute mark? Give it another go. Yeah, some nice electronic burbling at the end. That was really pretty. I enjoyed that a lot, actually. So when it went into the Smashing Pumpkins bit, you had this lovely, as I say, seesawing, and then it started to grow and escalate, and it seemed like each note was trying to hit like a high tide mark, and it was just getting higher and higher, and you got some tension in there as well. It's really nice, and then the voices came in, the sort of overlapping, echoing, babbling voices. Um, Sort of remind me of a kebab house just after kicking out time. Chaos. Um, and yeah, and then it all sort of came. The last wave of distortion just came crashing down. It's very sort of fluid, isn't it? It's like the sea, like waves. Um, and then the sort of the murmuring voices resolve themselves as Breathy McBreathy comes back in again. And I think I didn't catch all the lyrics, but she did bookend it. I think at the end with a previous bit about there's nothing here, etc. Um, can't read it down, but yeah, I'll decipher that. Yeah, it's really nice actually. I enjoyed that a lot. Kind of reminded me a little bit, not the same in sound, but in terms of the effect and everything, of Mary in the Junkyard. Um, just in the kind of approach. Yeah, interesting. Well, need to find out a bit more about swap meat. I still want to say swamp meat. I'm so sorry. I keep adding extra letters to these bands' names, and I do apologise. Swap meat. let's find out more about going back to speak with Andy.
All right, so you're back from the swap meet. What'd you pick up?
I'm afraid I've done it again. It's really not deliberate, honestly, but I keep adding extra letters to the names of bands you give me. So I kept referring to it in my head as swamp meat, which kind of seems makes more sense.
That's what I had for dinner last night. It was
Yeah,
delicious.
a lovely bag of swamp meat. Anyway, sorry, a bit. I will say this: swamp meat, fucking terrible name. Anyway, um, so song starts off with this single sustained note, the keyboard kicks us off, and it continues. Go as far as I know, it's probably still going to this day. And it's the first brick laid in this construction. And I will be mixing my metaphors like a cement mixer. The rhythmic strumming of the guitar, and I think perhaps there's like a bit of a frog scraper as well. But it all adds to this sort of almost folksy underlay and a very pretty sort of gentle melody line. In comes a female voice, more breathy than a hedgehog with a snorkel. She first starts vocalizing like someone deciding which flavored tea to have. And then when she starts actually singing, the words she delivers, you would need super glue to put them together to actually form complete words. There's lovely broken. There are syllables. There are some vowels. But it does have the delivery itself has this lovely fragile beauty to it, and it is very familiar. In terms of reminding me of other people, but I can't for the moment put my finger on it. Nor am I allowed to, according to the judge.
Easy.
Anyway, but for some reason, this sort of vocal style always makes me think Scandinavian for absolutely no reason. I can't back it up, but it just does. As you sing it, I do catch the word ceiling. I presume there's probably a word fan after it, but it's just an educated guess. And I have to say at this point, ceiling fan does make me think of those prolonged shots of said ceiling fan at the top of the stairs and the landing of the Palmer's house in Twin Peaks. I mean, so many shots of that ceiling fan going on for minutes at a time. It means something.
Clearly,
no one knows what, but it means something.
What it symbolizes, we don't know, but we are meant to know that it's a symbol.
Exactly, and that's David Lynch for you.
Yeah.
God fucking bless him. Anyway, I then get some lyrics. I'm talking about all this time for you to make up your mind. There's nothing more. There's nothing more here. And then we get this bit. This says something about this delusional sense of reality. And then the guitar comes in and starts to chime. And actually, I think it is. Excuse me. I think it is guitars, because I'm sure I'm hearing kind of almost like a slide guitar underneath, or something of that effect. Really nice and pretty. And it's building. And then about the 2 minute mark, up comes the rhythm section, comes jogging up. Like, oi, look over here. There's more. And suddenly, bang, the rest of the song arrives. And we are treated to some wonderful Smashing Pumpkins guitar flourishes that sound very nice indeed. So the main guitar had that lovely leaning, bendy quality to them, that backed with a wheelbarrow full of distortion on the other stuff as well. So it has all this lovely stuff in place. I think in particular at this point, the drums are doing a fantastic job of marshalling everything into a structure from this sort of explosion of sound. And then we get into a sort of a rhythmic pattern of seesawing of expressions. We sort of set the bass, and then they start to change. And each progression, each wave is hitting a different high tide mark. And then we get ethereal vocals echoing and overlapping. That reminded me of the sort of activity in a kebab shop at kicking out time, just like 20 people all talking at once and not making any fucking sense. And I don't know how you're going to get that guy who's asleep in the corner to confirm whether he wants chili sauce or not. It's just not going to happen. We then hit the peak of the squeals around 3:15, and the last sort of crash of the distortion ebbs away over the rock pools, and the voices suddenly be distilled down and become clearer. And Breathy McBreathy comes back with and as you start singing again, the occasional word is double tracked for extra sort of spookiness or atmosphere. We get ad hoc chimes, hums, and buzzes, um, which would be a lovely name for a band. Ad hoc chimes, hums, and buzzes. And they fill out the space. And as the drums sort of shuffle a final time, we get this bookending of a sort to the repeated about all this time. You make up your mind, there's nothing more here. And the song runs out of almost steam, as it were, and fades. And then we just get another 20 seconds of electronic burbling for no apparent reason. I think this is really interesting. Um, in terms of an overall song, it kind of captivated me actually, and I found it similar in a way to the first time I listened to Mary in the Junkyard. She had another breathy voice, but it was slightly a different kind of tone to it. It wasn't. This is much more naturalistic. Hers had a little bit of quirky madness to it, Mary in the Junkyard. But what they managed to achieve with this melange of sounds was similar in a way. I found it really interesting and fascinating listening. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought you'd like this one. It had a similar experience where it just like I hit play and I don't know I mean, we got maybe a minute or so into it and I realized how much like it was like just washing over me and that truly like bore its teeth in me. I fucking loved listening to this song. Great sound they got going on for them. But yes, Swapmeet, ceiling fan. They're a rock band from Garnaland, Adelaide, Australia, consisting of Venus O'Brien on guitar and vocals, Joshua Doherty on bass, Maxwell Elphick on guitar, and Jack Medlin on drums. And they were formerly known as Sob Sour. So there's like, they recently changed their name to Swapmeet. And with indie rock foundations characterized by sonic experimentation and a punk spirit, Swapmeet are known in the Adelaide circuit for their playful, chaotic onstage presence. Now, I got conflicting information from two different articles, and then believe it or not, conflicting information in one article surrounding who exactly bought their first guitar to Swapmeet. So it was either Maxwell Elphick or Venus O'Brien, who went to the Murray Bridge Swapmeet and bought a guitar. And a sparkling idea hit them. Swapmeet would be a really cool band name. Now, John might take issue with that, but that was their experience.
I'll just interject here, just briefly. I have to. So, back in the late 70s, there were competing children's television shows on Saturday morning that lasted from like 9 till 12. They were both 3-hour epics. The very cool one on ITV was called Tiswas, and it had Chris Tarrant and Sally James and even Bob Carriages and Spit the Dog and Lenny Henry and the Phantom Custard Pie Flinger and Gunge Cage. And it was chaos and it was brilliant. On the BBC, they had Noel Edmonds' Multicolored Swap Shop, which has a very similar premise that they would have live events around the country where people would turn up and submit things, kids. But they'd phone in and say, I've got an Action Man and I want to swap it for a pogo stick or stuff like that. And it was dreadfully boring. It really was.
Yes.
And it was kind of like the sort of thing that your parents wanted you to watch. Could there be an educational bit on there? And really a tame band like Matt fucking Bianco. Someone actually phoned in and said that you're a bunch of wankers live on the telly. It was a really famous clip. But everyone wanted, the kids really wanted to watch Tiswas with the gunge tank and all that stuff. Yeah. And it just reminds me of that. Sorry. I mean, I'm guessing the same premise, the Swapmeet, but it was really for spotty little kids under the age of 12 or 13.
Right, yeah.
So that's the image I've got in my head. Sorry, I just, so that's probably why I think it's such a shit name for a band.
Okay, fair. You have prior experience that is kind of influenced.
And they probably they never would have had that down in Antipodean cousins. So, fair enough.
So, it took a few years and a legal threat, but Swapmeet was at last realized. They had been gigging around Adelaide and making a start on their debut EP when a local artist with a similar name began legal proceedings against them. Eventually, they made the tough decision to move on from Soursop and change their name to avoid any unnecessarily lengthy court battles, which would prohibit them from releasing music as it unfolded. So, their debut EP, Oxalis, released on April 12th, 2024, and it sounds like dream pop meets indie folk rock and marks a meeting place between what began as Soursop and ended as Swapmeet. The EP's name is a cheeky nod to the band's roots, being a genus name of the plant Australians affectionately know as soursop. So Venus says the EP's name goes way back. The track we listened to today, Ceiling Fan, is featured on Oxalis, but it was first released as a single a little over a month before the EP's drop. The EP currently sits at an average rating of 3.52 out of 5 based on 17 different user ratings. But over at Album of the Year, the EP sits at an earned average rating of 84 out of 100 based on the feedback of 8 contributors. One of those aforementioned contributors would add this in their review of the EP. Swapmeet's debut EP, Oxalis, emerges as a refreshing genre-bending contribution to the Australian music scene, despite the lack of support and culture behind independent music. Being new to the underground music scene of Australia, this EP serves as a testament to the creativity and resilience in the underfunded music sector in this country. Swapmeet saw nods for Best Song, Best New Artist, Best Group, Best Release, and Best Cover Art, which was, in fact, designed by the band's front person and guitarist Venus O'Brien, at the 2024 SA Music Awards, which is Southern Australia or South Australia. They would go on to win 2 of those awards, Best Song for Ceiling Fan, and Best Release for their EP Oxalis. Over at The Note, Jack Peisch reviewed this track and wrote, Ceiling Fan boasts an unconventional song structure, which allows it to condense an entire life's worth of emotional peaks and valleys into one blistering, expanding crescendo. The wailing guitars and ephemeral vocal fragments that mark the song's midsection evoke a story of growth and self-exploration, even without lyrics to outline the finer points of its narrative. The sonic epicenter, this monolith of fuzz, is then juxtaposed against an outro of campfire acoustics set to a cantering 6/4 rhythm. The contrasts make it feel like you're coming home after years away and can finally take a long, deep breath. So, let's jump into these lyrics. I've been running out of reasons for me to be scared, to hold you tight and just not care. I've been looking at the ceiling. It appeals to me now, how it can witness almost anything without making a sound. And I've been waiting all this time for you to make up your mind. But there's nothing more but there's nothing more, but there's nothing more here. Feels like I've wasted my year on this sick hope, on this sick dream, on this delusional sense of reality. And I hoped for a second I could be your ceiling fan. I could give you what you wanted the most without having to stand. And I've been waiting all this time for you to make up, your mind. But there's nothing more, but there's nothing more, but there's nothing more here. When recently asked at the 2020 what 2025 had in store for the band, They had after a very successful 2024, the band noted that they looked forward to continuing to tour and meet and work with new bands and playing new venues. But they also acknowledged the work they intend to put in on their upcoming debut full-length album. And I, for one, look forward to hearing what they produce. I should also note it's very interesting that in the reaction that we've done recently for Floodlights, you had mentioned this odd correlation in what you heard there with the Murder Capital. Because these guys are in the midst of touring with the Murder Capital in their Australia, New Zealand tour that they're currently on or about to wrap up anyway. So yeah, these guys were opening for the Murder Capital. It just made me think, oh, that's really coincidental that you brought them up in the last review. So yeah, I really, really enjoy this song a lot. All three, I think, or four of the recent songs I've given you from Australia bands have just been a nice little spotlight, as humble as it is, on the really good music coming out of Australia and the indie scene therein. So I appreciate you entertaining this little tour of Down Under and giving these songs a go. So thank you so much, John. I appreciate your input. I'm glad you seem to like a lot of it, so that's really cool too. I look forward to hearing from all these bands that we've recently covered. Um, Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you've made of Swapmeet and this track Ceiling Fan. If it reminded you of anything, John, I think dropped a little, like said he had a little Smashing Pumpkins moment when he was listening to this. What did you guys hear when you gave it a listen? Also, if you have any bands, whether they be Australian or not, that you would like us to check out here on the channel, please drop them in the comments field below. We will add them to our running list for future Friday episodes. Also, while we have your attention, those of you, the very few who are still here, please like, share, and subscribe if you be so inclined. It really does help us at the channel, and we really do appreciate it. So hopefully, John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.